What's up everyone, and welcome back to more Reddit stories about entitled people, crazy people, and all that kind of stuff. So be sure to subscribe if you haven't yet for more Reddit content, and let's get into today's stories. Confronting my coworker in front of everyone when she wrongfully believed I had groomed my wife. I am 30 years old and male. My wife Jessica is 22. My wife has a 7-year-old son, Max, whom she had when she was 15 years old. The father, who was her boyfriend in junior high school and is the same age as Jessica, actually left the state when he and his family learned that she was pregnant. Jessica has no idea where he is, and since her family is well off, she didn't really need or care for his support. I met Jessica when she was 20. We dated for a year and then got married when she was 21. I love Max and raise him as if he was my own son. Last month, Max came to my workplace with Jessica in the early afternoon to surprise me with a lunch outing. As they waited for me to finish up a meeting, the front desk secretary, Claire, chatted with Jessica. I wasn't there for the conversation, but Claire was stunned at how young Jessica looked, and Jessica said she was 22. Apparently, Claire did a bit of napkin math and came to the following conclusions. Jessica is 22 and I am 30. Max is 7. That means Jessica and I had Max when she was 15 and I was 23. Apparently, from that day on, Claire began gossiping about this. I had no idea what was going on, but I did notice that Claire abruptly changed her attitude towards me, glaring when she thought I wasn't looking or rolling her eyes when I talked to other people. Well, today at work, when I was in the bathroom washing my hands, I overheard Claire gossiping with a new hire about my, quote, underaged wife outside the door by the water cooler. I left the bathroom and then walked up behind Claire. She turned around and looked like a deer in the headlights at me, and so I announced loudly, "Hi Claire, you see I am not Max's biological father. In all of your gossiping to other people, you forgot to consider the most obvious possibility, which was that I am his stepfather. I will, by the way, be reporting you to HR for this." I headed directly to HR and explicitly told them what Claire had said, and the manager, a fellow gossip friend of Claire's, asked if I really wanted to escalate over something so small. I said yes. She then told me Claire is a single mother and relies on this job, and that I shouldn't have embarrassed her in front of the office like that. I insisted on filing a report. After calming down a bit, I feel kind of bad about what I did. Claire cried at her desk and left early. Was I an asshole to approach the issue that way? No, OP definitely had a good reason to take this to HR, I'd say. It's like, yeah, Claire's a single mother and relies on this job, but does that mean she's immune to consequences? The kind of rumors she was spreading is not something that you should take lightly. And even if someone believes something like this to be true about a coworker, I just don't think any sort of rumor spreading or gossiping does any good for anybody. It just creates unnecessary tension and drama. Which obviously is what they wanted. They just wanted to gossip and badmouth people. Which the HR person seemed to be a part of as well, and obviously wanted to protect Claire because they were in the same clique. And on top of that, when Claire was confronted by OP about this, she could have apologized, said she was wrong and had some humility. But instead she kinda seemed to try to play it off like she was the victim, just because OP dared to correct her in front of everyone. Which, the way I see it, was a good way for OP to clear his own name and reputation in the office. It wasn't just to humiliate her, it was for OP to protect himself. Empty your pockets or I'm calling the police. I'm super pissed about what just happened to me for multiple reasons, so I apologize for my lack of candor, concern, or how this comes across. All names have been changed to protect my sanity. So this just happened on my lunch break as I drove to the other side of town to cash in my scratcher ticket. By other side of town, I mean the invisible border that separates areas that can sell scratchers and areas that can't. Tribal grounds don't sell scratchers or a lottery at convenience stores. I drove to this place because I wanted a soda and some snacks. You know, a healthy lunch for a teacher. It's a cool little mom and pop place, but the second I stepped in, the cashier just gave me an icy stare for some reason. A little background. 3 of my 5 children are on the autism and Asperger's spectrum. And though I myself was never diagnosed as a child, I can guarantee that I have similar tendencies. And I have a feeling that my lack of proper eye contact might have something to do with the cashier's high noon stare. As I was walking into the place, I contemplated cashing the scratcher right away, but decided I'd wait until I get my stuff and then cash it at the same time. In this indecisiveness, I found myself fumbling around in my pockets and feeling to make sure I had my car keys. A nervous habit that I have. I probably check once every 15 minutes, whether I'm at home, on the road, or sometimes even sleeping. I can't tell you how many times I checked my pockets, but I can tell you that someone staring at me increases the frequency. I picked my items mentally, but yet again checked my pockets to see if I had enough change, plus the $5 from the scratcher winnings to pay for the items. I'm in deep thought about this when I hear yelling or something that sounds like blah 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 police. I look up and see a lady right in my face, repeating herself saying, "Empty your pockets or I'm calling the police." She for some reason super emphasized the N syllable, just don't know how to properly depict that. It was borderline funny and I kind of laughed as I started to comply simultaneously with the moment she took her gnarly fingers and dug her nails into my arm. She had to reach up. I'm 6'3", she's not. I like to consider my pain threshold pretty good, but this chick was seriously hurting me, trying to drag me to some place. I just went along with her and told her to calm down as I pulled super sharply away from her increasingly painful grasp. She yelled at me again, "Empty your pockets," and then yelled out presumably to someone else, "Call the police." I took this moment to think to myself, oh shit, I better empty my damn pockets right now before this gets out of hand. It was already way out of hand, it just took me a beat to realize. I quickly started emptying my pockets, which had 3 receipts, my wallet, a straw wrapper, and with everything I took out of my pockets, I smacked it on her checkout area individually, saying, "See, this isn't your shit, this isn't your shit, this... oh wait, no, it's also not your shit." And when I got through almost everything and finally ended with the scratcher I was going to cash in there, I realized that I was acting out of anger and physical pain and should probably take it down a notch. I then started emptying my shirt pocket, which had my teacher ID, my pens, and my whiteboard marker. I then put my arms spread out as if to say, "Would you like to check anywhere else? I'm clean." She just kept shaking her head at me, shaking her head to someone off in the distance, and then the cops arrive. I can't believe she actually called, or had someone call, the police. As the car pulled up, I just couldn't explain to you how glorious this was, because the lady and I both had satisfying grins on our faces. Her because she thought I was done for, and subsequently told me, "Now we'll really search you." And me because this officer is also the resource officer of the school I work at, who just so happened to get the call somehow. My arm was bleeding from her nails when she grabbed me and I could feel it. Anyway, Officer Gold walks in, and I was about to let on that I knew him by addressing him by name. Thank God I didn't, because not a good look. But he beat me to the punch by saying, "Davis, you holding up another liquor store?" With that dopey smile he always has. I told him, "Hey, I emptied my pockets, you can search me, just..." Officer Gold says, "Rich, that won't be necessary. I can see your pockets are empty. Did she watch you empty them? Is there a camera?" He just continued rattling off his cop spiel, then turning to the lady and saying, "Ma'am, can I ask you a few questions?" At which he turned back to me and was about to tell me something when he sees my arm and says, "How the hell did that happen?" I thought, yeah, you might want to check the camera on that one too, but just looked directly at the lady to indicate the answer we both already knew. He then turned to the lady, told her to follow him, and had her walk to the outside of the store. By this time, a second police car had arrived at the scene, had an exchange with Officer Gold, and Gold spoke with the lady while the new officer came to talk with me. She asked me the typical questions, like when I got there, whether I'd been there earlier in the day, which I hadn't, if I knew that lady before today, etc. She asked me if I wanted to press charges against her, and despite the feeling of pain still throbbing through my arm, I simply told her, "Oh, that's not necessary, as long as she knows I'm not a thief." I saw the lady in the back of the squad car. It was so anticlimactic. She just sat there, no anger, no visible emotion whatsoever. She got released, grabbed a piece of paper from Goldie, locked the store doors, and walked to her vehicle. While all of this was happening, Officer 2 had been asking me some more questions, almost trying to talk me into pressing charges, and handed me a victim's rights pamphlet, I guess in case I change my mind. Update. I've started the process of pressing charges thanks to the insistence of Officer Gold. He brought me the paperwork saying he's not letting me go down like that. He said it way better though. He took pictures of my arm and hand in my classroom on my 7th hour prep. I didn't even notice my hand bruising until he said something. He even told me how to word things to not leave any questions as to what happened. Very succinct and factual and descriptive of the damage inflicted. Financially struggling friends order insanely expensive dishes only because we're splitting the bill. I, 27 male, have been a part of a small friend group, around 8 people total, basically since college. For some background, 2 people from the group, Susan and Greg, are just absolute leeches. Going out for lunch? Expect them to order the most expensive thing on the menu, then feed you some sob story about their finances, and then dump half the bill on you. Last weekend, Dan, one of the people from the group, told me about a casual dinner. I told him how if Susan or Greg were there, I wouldn't be able to come. He tells me that they would be there, but I should just put my opinions aside and come just once. So I agreed with him and told him I would be there. I show up and we all get to talking. Everyone began putting in their orders. Most of them spent about $40. There were only about 6 people there. When it gets to Susan and Greg, they both order expensive dishes, around 200 Australian dollars, which is 125 USD. When it was my turn to order, everyone looked at me, but I just picked up the menu and pointed to the $4 Miller Lite and sent the waiter away. Dan asked why I hadn't ordered anything, and all I said was that I lost my appetite. The other 2 friends got up as well to cancel their orders and just have drinks, leaving Susan, Greg, and Dan as the only ones who ordered food out of the 6 of us. After the main courses came out, I saw Susan and Greg picking at their food. The waiter then brings over the check. Greg then grabs the waiter and asks him to split the check evenly 6 ways. I stand up and correct him, saying the check was to be split 3 ways. Greg looks at me confused and asks why, since we always split the bill. I reminded him that 3 of us had not eaten any food, so we would just be paying for our drinks. So basically, at the end of the night, Dan, who probably ate around $50 worth of food, or 31 USD, was stuck with a $146.98 check at the end, or 92.27 USD. Yes, I remember the exact number. I swear I saw his jaw drop when he picked that receipt up. I slid a 10 towards the check, said goodbye to everyone, and walked out. Edit. At this restaurant, the bar is separate, so drinks are on a separate bill, if that makes sense. And if anyone is concerned about leaving a tip, I live in Australia. Also wanted to clarify some things. 90% of restaurants where I live don't do separate checks, and might separate the bill for you if you're lucky. Dan could have easily asked Greg and Susan to transfer him the money if he wanted, but he's always been about helping them through their financial hardship, even though they're just using him and keeps dragging me into it. I admit what I did was immature, but I'm tired of being forced to play along. It's his money, and if he wants to spend it on them, that's fine, but I'm not paying for them. Also, Dan's a really good friend of mine, albeit blind as hell. I was just trying to get him to see what kind of people he was helping. I will admit it was a tad bit petty. Yeah, since OP mentioned that most of these restaurants won't do separate bills in the first place, then I guess the normal situation here would be everyone in the group throwing in money to pay for their part, and maybe a little extra if they're feeling generous. So the fact that the couple that ordered the expensive food went out of their way to specifically request that the check be split evenly is honestly just a dead giveaway. You know exactly what they're doing. They're only ordering those dishes because they're expecting everyone else to help pay for it. I really doubt they would order the same stuff if it were just the 2 of them. Anyway guys, that's going to be all for today. Thank you for watching, I appreciate it. And as always, if you enjoyed, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more Reddit content like this. So I'm out of here, take care, and I'll see you next time.